They called me garbage in front of my baby granddaughter. Laughed. Take a picture. Said I was the family clown. The next morning, I made 5 phone calls that changed everything. I was holding my granddaughter in my arms when she spit up all over me. I just smiled. A minute later, my wife walked in and said, "That baby knows what garbage feels like." My daughter let out a snort. "She catches on quick," she said. Then my son-in-law pulled out his phone, took a picture, and went, "There's our family clown." I didn't say a word. Just kept rocking that little girl till she drifted off. This morning, my wife called me 13 times, begging me to take it back, what I did. Short version? After years of being torn down by my wife, daughter, and her husband, they finally crossed the line, mocking me in front of my baby granddaughter. Now they're learning what it looks like when the family ATM pushes back. Throwaway account, for obvious reasons. I changed the names, but not the truth. I'm a 59-year-old man. I ain't perfect, never said I was. Dropped out of college 35 years ago to build a construction business from scratch. My hands are rough, my back's shot, and yeah, I've put on some weight. But I worked my ass off, gave my family a solid life, and never complained about 60-hour weeks just so they could have more than I ever did. My wife, Wanda, she's 57, she didn't always act like this. Back when we tied the knot, she used to be proud of me. Somewhere around our 15th year, that started changing. Maybe it was when her old college buddy started climbing the corporate ladder, while I was still coming home with mud on my boots. Maybe it was when her sister landed a dentist for a husband. All I know is she started making these little digs. At first, they were half jokes. "Oh, Heath, you're tracking mud in again. Typical construction guy." Stuff like that. But it got worse. Way worse. 3 years back, our daughter Malia, she's 32, and her husband Patrick, 34, were having trouble finding a place. Market's nuts around here. I've got a rental property that brings in good money. But family comes first, right? So I let them move in for way under market value. Should have gone for $2,200 a month. I charged them $1,950. Patrick works in tech. Something with computers. He's tried explaining it, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Malia's in marketing. They both make decent money but always act like they're scraping by. Over these past 3 years, I've kept the rent low, fixed anything that broke myself, let them keep using our streaming logins, and even paid their car insurance since I added them to our policy just for a little while. I've watched their baby girl, Aaliyah, she's 8 months now, countless times during the week. Never asked for a dime. And what do I get for it? Nothing but smart mouths and disrespect. Christmas, Patrick asked in front of everyone if I knew how to use a smartphone. I've had the same Samsung for 4 years and run my whole business on it. When I said so, he laughed and said, "Wow, not bad for a guy who still writes checks at the store." Whole family laughed. I didn't. Wanda likes to make jabs at dinner, says I embarrass her in restaurants because I don't know what fork goes where. Sorry, I didn't grow up learning fork etiquette. We were poor. Last month, at a barbecue, I overheard her telling her sister, "Heath's what happens when you peak in high school." Yeah, I played football and wrestled. Didn't know that made me a loser. Now Malia's starting to sound just like her. I fixed their dishwasher last week, saved them a $150 repair bill. While I was on the floor working, she told Aaliyah, "This is why we want you to go to college, so you don't end up crawling around like grandpa." I kept my mouth shut. Just finished the job. Then came 2 days ago, the straw that broke me. They went off to some wine tasting, left Aaliyah with me. I love that little girl more than anything. She's the only one in that house who lights up when she sees me. I was rocking her after her bottle, just chatting soft to her. She got a little cranky and spit up all over me. No big deal, babies do that. I smiled, told her it was okay, and started getting us both cleaned up. That's when they came back early. All 3 of them, walking in. First thing Wanda says is, "That baby knows what garbage feels like." Just like that. Then Malia snorts, she learns fast. Patrick snaps a picture and says, "There's our family clown." Like I'm some kind of punchline. I didn't say a word. Just kept cleaning the baby, rocked her till she was asleep, laid her in her crib, and went home. Wanda came back about an hour later, already griping about something else. Didn't even mention what happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing their faces. Hearing that line again and again. The baby knows what garbage feels like. 35 years married. 1 daughter. A granddaughter I'd do anything for. And that's what I am to them, trash. The family clown. That's what I become. So yesterday morning, while Wanda was off at yoga, I made a few calls. Big ones. Ones I should have made a long time ago. See, folks think I'm just some guy who never learned which fork to use at a fancy dinner. What they don't get is, I understand money. I know who pays for what in this family. I know Patrick's been gambling online. Thinks he's slick, but he's using our home Wi-Fi. I checked the router logs. I know about Wanda's hidden credit card too, nearly maxed out. Truth is, they're all leaning on me financially. Every one of them. And good ol' Dumbheath? He knows it. By the time I hung up that last call, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, calm. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, headed out to the garage, and waited. This morning, the phone started lighting up at 6:43 sharp. First Wanda, then Malia, then Patrick, then Wanda again. 13 calls in total while I sat there on the porch, sipping coffee and watching the sun come up. 13 voicemails, each one a little more desperate than the last. I haven't returned a single one. Funny how they forget a doormat can get up off the floor anytime he wants. Well, I'm standing now. Update 1. First off, thanks for all the messages. Waking up to that many notifications was a real shock to the system. Some folks asked if I made all this up for attention. Wish I had. Unfortunately, this is just my life right now. So, where did we leave off? My own family called me garbage and a clown in front of my granddaughter. I made some calls. Then I sat back and let their phones blow up trying to reach me. Now you're wondering, what did I actually do? Here's the rundown. For years, I've been the one paying the bills, sometimes directly, sometimes quietly. Most of my income goes toward people who clearly don't respect me. I'd been planning to retire in about 3 years. That would have needed their cooperation. But after what happened, I figured retirement starts now. At least from being their piggy bank. Patrick's gambling? Worse than I let on. The guy's dropped about 65 grand over the past 2 years on sports betting and poker apps. He thinks private browsing hides that. It doesn't. The router logs keep track, and so do the collection notices I've seen in their mail when I stop by to fix things. Malia's clueless. Patrick's been grabbing the mail and hiding the bills. And Wanda? Turns out my wife of 35 years has been hiding more than eye rolls and comments. She's racked up $42,000 on 3 secret credit cards. I found out when a bill accidentally showed up at our house instead of her sister's. Designer bags, jewelry, fancy clothes. Meanwhile, she gives me grief when I buy new work boots. This wasn't about revenge. It was about setting things straight. First call I made was to my lawyer. Got a consultation lined up that same afternoon to talk about locking down my assets. Second call, property manager. I told them the rent on Malia and Patrick's place was going up immediately to market value. $200. No more charity. They'd get the notice within 48 hours. Third call, the bank. Started moving money, opening new accounts, and separating out savings. Fourth call, insurance company. Pulled Patrick and Malia's cars off the policy. Fifth call, my accountant. We went over how to protect my retirement fund by restructuring the business. By lunchtime, I had it all in motion. I wasn't lashing out. I was just done. Done letting them treat me like garbage while taking every dollar they could get from me. I went home and waited. Wanda came in around 1 p.m., still high off her yoga class, rambling about some woman's leggings. I barely responded, just sat there at the table flipping through my phone. Then her phone buzzed. It was an email from my attorney, CC&G me, confirming our upcoming meeting about financial restructuring and possibly dividing assets. The moment she read it, her face changed. She went from annoyed to ghost white in seconds. "What's this about?" she asked. "Are you seeing someone? Are you losing your mind?" I kept it simple. "No, I'm not cheating. No, I haven't lost my mind. Actually, I think I finally found it." She switched gears real fast. Suddenly, I was sweetheart and honey. Gone was the garbage talk. But I just sat there eating my sandwich. By 3 p.m., my phone lit up again, Malia. The property manager had reached out about the rent increase. She wanted to know if there'd been a mistake. I texted one word back, no? 10 minutes later, Patrick was calling. I didn't answer. 4 voicemails came in, each one more frantic than the last. The final one? His voice cracked. He begged me to at least give them time to figure things out. By dinner time, Wanda had checked our joint accounts and saw most of the money was gone, moved into new accounts. I left just enough to keep the regular bills covered. She started crying, said she didn't understand what was happening. I reminded her of what she said. The baby knows what garbage feels like. She tried to laugh it off, said I was being too sensitive. So I walked over, pulled out the printed credit card statements, the ones she thought were hidden, and laid them on the table. Her face went white again. She dropped into a kitchen chair, eyes wide, mouth hanging open. Couldn't say a single word. For the first time in our marriage, Wanda was speechless. I slept in the guest room that night. Not because she told me to, because I couldn't bring myself to sleep beside her. My phone kept buzzing with messages and calls. I switched it to silent. Next morning, I met with my attorney. We spent 2 hours going over everything. Doesn't mean divorce for sure, but I'm making sure I'm covered. He told me to document it all. Good thing I'd already started. Every insult, every shady charge, every lie. When I got home, Malia was sitting in our driveway. Malia was sitting in her car out front, and Aaliyah was strapped into the back seat. That was Lo, using my granddaughter like some kind of emotional prop. I almost cracked when I saw her little face. But then I remembered them laughing. Remembered the baby puke on my shirt. That helped me stay steady. Malia started out with the tears. When that didn't work, she shifted to yelling. "How could you do this to us?" she asked. "We can't afford that rent. We'll have to move. Is that what you want? Your granddaughter living in some rundown apartment because grandpa's having a midlife crisis?" I looked her dead in the eye and asked if she knew about Patrick's gambling. The way her face twisted told me all I needed to know. She didn't have a clue. I told her to ask him about the $65,000 before worrying about rent. She drove off crying, but not before I leaned in and kissed Aaliyah goodbye. That part? That was tough. Real tough. By the end of the week, things blew up. Patrick showed up where I work, causing a scene. He bounced between begging and threats, even said he'd make sure I never saw Aaliyah again if I didn't back off. I recorded the whole thing on my phone, just in case. Wanda packed a bag and moved in with her sister after I wouldn't reverse the financial changes. But not before she tried one more guilt trip, asking if 35 years of marriage meant nothing to me. I asked her the same thing. 2 weeks have passed. Legal notices are all out. My lawyers got my assets locked down tight. The property manager confirmed Malia and Patrick haven't paid the new rent. Last night, I was out on the deck with a cold beer, watching the sky, when my phone lit up. Patrick had posted that picture, me with vomit on my shirt. Same one he took while calling me the family clown. His caption was some rant about ungrateful boomer parents who abandon their families. Post had 0 likes and 3 comments telling him to take it down. This morning, I woke up to a text from Malia. Just 2 words. "We need to talk. We're meeting for coffee tomorrow." No Patrick. She says she found something on their shared computer I need to see. I don't know what's coming next. Part of me feels bad, especially for Aaliyah. But you know what? Feeling like a man again beats feeling guilty. For the first time in years, I've got self-respect. I'm not their clown. I'm not their trash. I'm just a man who finally said enough. Final update. Something strange happens when you stop giving a damn about what people think. It's like flipping on a switch you didn't know was there. I spent 60 years trying to be liked. Now, I sleep better than I ever have. That coffee meeting with Malia? It was just the beginning of their nightmare, and my freedom. She looked like hell. Hair a mess, eyes red, still wearing that old hoodie from college. No wedding ring. She didn't say a word, just slid her laptop across the table. What I saw on that screen made my stomach turn. Turns out Patrick hadn't lost 65 grand. He was over 112,000 in the hole. Loans on their car. 7 credit cards maxed. And the part that made my jaw clench, he drained from the college fund her grandparents set up. But that wasn't all. There were emails. Hundreds. To some woman named Dolores. The kind you wish you could unsee. Pictures. Hotel receipts. Nasty stuff. And get this, he was sending them from my Wi-Fi. From my house. While I was crawling under their sink or bouncing his baby on my knee. Malia wasn't crying. She was past crying. She asked if she and Aaliyah could stay with me for a while. I said yes, but with a condition. This wouldn't be another daddy fixes everything situation. I'd help, but I wasn't their safety net anymore. What I didn't tell her was what I'd already done. I'd moved 90% of my assets into protected trusts. That was after meeting with my lawyer. But I'd also made other calls. To Patrick's parents. To his boss. Even to the guy who runs the Thursday night poker game. I told them everything. Backed it up with receipts. His folks were horrified. His boss? Concerned about judgment issues. His poker buddies kicked him out of their group within 2 days. I'd also been saving every nasty text, every insult, every eye roll. I put it all in one shared folder, screenshots, voice memos, you name it, and sent it to Wanda's sister, her parents, and her closest friends. The message was simple. This is how my family has treated me for years. I'm done. The reactions rolled in fast. Her sister called her disgusting. Her mom said she was ashamed. Her best friend, someone she's known since college, said she didn't even recognize the woman in those messages. By the end of the week, Wanda had nowhere left to stay. Her sister kicked her out. She called me 13 more times, each one sadder than the last. I didn't answer. Meanwhile, Patrick was unraveling. He crashed at his buddy Xavier's for a couple nights until Xavier kicked him out for not pitching in for beer. No family. No friends. Cards maxed. Bank accounts empty. Then he showed up at my house around midnight. Drunk. Banging on the door. Yelling that he wanted to see Aaliyah. I didn't even open it. Just hit the call button on my new security app and let the doorbell camera record the whole mess. Cops showed up and found coke in his car. Not my problem. Malia filed for emergency custody the next day. 2 weeks in, I was picking out apples in the grocery store when Wanda appeared. Followed me around, begging for 5 minutes to talk. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and said, "Go ahead." She fell apart right there, between the apples and zucchini. Told me she was sorry. Admitted she'd been awful. She said she didn't know why she acted like that. Swore she'd change. All the usual lines. I just looked at her and asked one thing. Did she remember calling me garbage in front of our granddaughter? Did she remember laughing while Patrick snapped that picture? Did she remember 35 years of little stabs and digs? Then I turned and walked off, pushing my cart. Left her crying in the produce aisle. 3 people filmed it on their phones. It hit local social media by dinner time. Was it petty? Yep. Did it feel damn good? You better believe it did. A month later, the real fallout began. Patrick and Malia missed a second rent payment. Property management filed for eviction. Their credit scores tanked. Patrick couldn't even get approved for a studio in the sketchy part of town. Wanda found out real quick how hard life is without someone footing the bill. Her fancy yoga studio? Gone. Salon appointments? Gone. Luxury SUV? Repossessed. She had to get a roommate. At 57, started picking up extra shifts just to keep up. For the first time in their lives, they were all getting a taste of the real world, without my safety net under M. Malia was the only one actually changing. She got a second job. Started going to therapy. Filed for divorce. She cut up all her credit cards. Tried to thank me for letting her stay. I reminded her it ain't charity. She was paying reduced rent, doing her share of chores. No freeloaders in my house. Not anymore. 3 months after everything went down, I agreed to meet with the whole family. At my house. My rules. They came looking like different people. Wanda had gained weight and stopped dyeing her hair. Patrick looked gaunt, lost at least 20 pounds, and couldn't sit still. Malia stood separate, like she didn't want to be lumped in with them. I laid out the terms, plain and simple. I'd help Malia and Aaliyah, but only with a formal repayment plan. Patrick? He'd need to finish gambling rehab, hold a steady job, and start paying child support if he wanted to see Aaliyah alone. As for Wanda, we'd stay separated. If we ever even considered reconciling, it'd take real therapy, a post-nup, and permanent separate finances. And from now on, one strike, just one, and any of them were out of my life for good. There were tears, arguing, begging, but in the end, they all agreed. Not because they wanted to, because they had no other choice. 6 months have gone by. So where are things now? Malia and Aaliyah moved into a small apartment last month. She's holding it together on her own. Only thing I do now is the occasional babysitting and a small loan, which, to her credit, she's been paying back right on time. Patrick finished 30 days in inpatient treatment. Got a job delivering packages. He sees Aaliyah twice a week, with supervision. Every time he looks at me, it's like he's waiting for the sky to fall. Good. He should. Wanda and I have been to 6 therapy sessions. Progress is slow. Real slow. We're not living together. Don't know if we ever will again. Therapist says I've got a lot of unresolved anger. No kidding. Yesterday was Aaliyah's first birthday. Malia had a small get-together at her place. Everybody was on their best behavior. No smart remarks. No side eyes. Just quiet civility and love for that little girl. I was holding her when she spit up on my shirt again. The whole room froze. Dead silence. They were all watching me. Waiting. I smiled at Aaliyah, told her it was okay, and started wiping us down. Nobody said a word. The air was thick, like you could slice it. I looked around the room, at these people who had spent years treating me like I didn't matter, and I asked, Anyone want to say something about this? Anybody? Not one of them made a sound. Patrick backed up like I might hit him. Wanda fumbled with a napkin. Malia just shook her head. And that's when I knew. I had won. Completely. Fully. No question. Is the story over? Hell no. Families are messy. Complicated. But the old way of things? That's dead. My family finally understands the truth. I'm not to be taken for granted. I'm not their bank. I'm not their punching bag. I'm not their joke. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge ain't a master plan or a dramatic moment. It's just letting people live in the mess they made, while you sit back, cold beer in hand, retirement fund intact, and peace in your heart. And when the sun sets, you sleep like a damn baby.